get to this point?
Good morning, Jane. I think that dropout in our country has for a very long time been pervasive and very normalized. And in fact, we haven't been talking about the issue at all. We don't track dropout in our country, not effectively enough for us to be able to prevent it well. And so the campaign has really been working really hard to make sure that we have early warning system in place and that we start tracking our learner disengagement in schools at an early on stage so that we can prevent learners from leaving the school space.
And I should imagine there are a whole host of reasons why they're not at school.
So we've just recently done a publication on exactly what the impact of COVID-19 has been on dropout. And one of the things we evaluated was just the trend of grade repetition, for example, in our schools between 2016 and 2018. And we see that actually only about less than 40% of learners in our school system currently are at the right age for their grade. Now, grade repetition is a major risk factor for dropout. And if we look at just about 60% of our population then in our poorest schools in particular, who are already under-resourced, struggling with educational outcomes, and what that means in terms of their disengagement, we can see why we have such a pervasive issue with dropout, because disengagement is heightened by this concern. And the longer we take to really put measures in place to intervene and ensure that our learners' engagement is upped, our teaching and learning efforts won't, really make a difference. And then if we think about what COVID-19 has done and the impact of COVID-19, we have a number of learners, especially in our poorer schools again, who had very different access to learning support while schools were closed. They are all returning to our school system now with very different levels of capacity and learning that they were able to retain in 2020. So we have large classes because of grade repetition, and also large classes that are very mixed in terms of learner capability. And so that's a real strain on teaching for an educator to be able to teach to all the different learners within our system. That coupled by the real economic impacts of COVID-19. So we know that many learners are navigating issues of food insecurity, grief and loss, having lost caregivers, in particular breadwinners, job losses, and migration, having to move around, homelessness, having lost homes. So we know that there's a number of other social factors that learners are also navigating at the same time. This really poses a threat for our learner engagement and definitely, for heightening the dropout even more than what we've seen previously.
Okay, I know your plan is to halve the dropout rate. How are you going to do that?
So we've been working to establish an early warning system, which is a tool that schools can use that tracks learner disengagement over a period of time. And it really tracks 3 indicators. It looks at the ABCs, which is academic achievement, behavior, and chronic absenteeism. We've seen from the work we've been doing the past 3 years in Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal that just tracking learner disengagement over time gives you flagging potential to assign risk to a learner and actually intervene ahead of time before the disengagement escalates to the point where they drop out of school. Second to that, we really believe that if we associate that risk to psychosocial responses, meaning that we have a risk-adjusted psychosocial response. There isn't just one referral pathway, but that there are many for the different kinds of risk levels that exist. It allows us to use our resources in our country better. Currently, psychosocial support within our school system is very scarce and not enough to cover the kind of needs that all of our learners have. And if we start using this risk-adjusted method, it will allow us to make better use of our community volunteers, of our community support systems, instead of, referring through one referral stream that goes to professionals and then really waits for learners to get results. And then thirdly, we really believe that if any of this nationally should shift, that we should have a national dropout KPI. We cannot only use the matric results as our reference point for the health of our school system and our education system. We need to have a KPI that looks at what the number of learners are that we manage to throughput this in the system within the given 12 years that they're meant to be there, and how many of them are dropping out. And we need to hold ourselves accountable to a number through measuring what dropout is effectively.
Okay, Mel, good to talk to you and good luck with that.